We got a series on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. TSM Academy are able to slowly fight their way back, but they took Coach Expecial's advice. Just fight them, Forehead. So, you know, you have a stronger comp, and you just need to just flash forward. Even Expecial being more, I wouldn't say
aggressive?
Proud is the correct word, but you were happy that Hanser was definitely using his flash button to initiate fights on the Renekton there.
I mean, when you put it like that, yes. I mean, yeah, that's what I was saying. But it's intuitive. When you're playing a comp like that against a Jinx comp, you just go in. I think it's same thing as the first game. They should have done exactly the same thing, and I'm happy that he did it. But for them to take a full game to actually understand that, I mean, that's not what you exactly want to see, but at least they're doing it now.
We're making progress. Let's go.
Woo! It's you know, for TSM Academy, definitely that's probably, especially for such experienced players, that's a little concerning for that roster. But for Winthrop University, even though they eventually lost that second game, there's moments where they were actually able to fight their way back and find some questionable mistakes from TSM Academy. Babik, I'm sorry, man. I don't want to just put you in the spotlight for good reason, but you know, man, we got to talk about the Baron. You know, like I don't know if it's like a practice tool thing, but you know, hopefully
the F key is coming in a little bit disconnected. It's okay, it happens. You know,
it happens. It happens to the best of us.
2 times in a row.
Yeah. Oh man. But the first replay that we do have is an example of when TSM Academy are playing to their comp strength and they are able to play off the fact that they are playing forward here, Alec, and they have the upper advantage in punishing off of a Winthrop sub-botched engage.
Yeah, you look at this, you're just waiting for this. We've been really proud of how Fizzy has been playing, and the biggest thing for this comp every single time against Winthrop is just lock down the Jinx. Yes, she has a flash, you get rid of that. As soon as she doesn't have that, you are flashing forward. We are trying to kill this Jinx, and as soon as that happens, you see it right here, TSM are able to find massive Team 5 victories, and we talked about it when we were kind of looking at this draft, that the LeBlanc feels really out of place, and we saw it time and time again in each one of these fights. You know, Doxa was putting in some damage, but every single fight ended with Doxa, lone wolf, just sitting around. He's like, okay, well, I guess I just have to escape. And I'm glad that TSM are finally kind of taking advantage of that, because Winthrop were able to get away with it last night with this Jinx, and I'm hopeful that this means that we got to see some adaptation from them, because I don't think that, you know, just being unpunished, just picking this Jinx blind is not going to be an answer for them going forward.
Yeah, definitely agree. There's a lot of great things that we saw in this game that I wish we saw in the first game. Yes. One thing that we saw obviously was Renekton like using his flash W aggressively. That's exactly what you should do on Grice. And I mean, it's one of the reasons why Renekton is so strong, because he can flash W, you can one-shot their carry essentially. And I mean, it was kind of pioneered in the LPL. If you watch LPL games, it's often the first pick. Renekton's is that strong in that region, and it's because their players are able to aggressively use that flash really, really well. And I mean, this game, honestly, TSM's comp was significantly better. You cannot play LeBlanc with Olaf in that comp and expect to get much value. I mean, Azir obviously built really defensive. He got Verdant, which is really smart. Usually people actually go Verdant and Mercs, and then eventually get Zhonya, is literally impossible for LeBlanc to play a game. I mean, there's so many good things about the TSM's draft, and I'm kind of excited to see Game 3. I did not expect it to go to Game 3. And
I don't think any of us did, yeah.
Right, but like, sorry, seeing the adaptation at this point is going to be pretty major from TSM Academy and from Winthrop, seeing like, what are you going to play? Are you going to ban it here? Are you going to deal with it? What's going to really happen? And hopefully TSM can understand, hey, like, if they pick Jinx again, we're just going to punish it. And then maybe Winthrop's like, hey, no more Jinx.
Right, and for both Saskio and Doxa, I know that LeBlanc and Jinx have been comfort picks that gave them success in their series against Revival. Notably, Doxa had one of his pop-up games in the first game of that series with that LeBlanc into Sudsley's Azir, but you know, this time around doesn't find the same success. And also, you know, it doesn't help when Frost Force was on a jungler like Jarvan in that game specifically, where you have a little bit more agency to set up the LeBlanc for success. But, you know, as Expecial mentioned during our in the middle of the games as we were watching and taking notes, like, you cannot pick Olaf with LeBlanc because both of those champions are doing opposite things, and they do not synergize up. The only thing that you can look to expect is if LeBlanc is somehow getting priority in that lane, then maybe you can invade as a two-man duo, but that wasn't the case this game because Azir is just so safe right now in this meta. And as we are looking towards game 3 here, gentlemen, we have to question, what is left in Doxa's champ pool because, the Zoe was fantastic. The LeBlanc didn't work out as well. We know that he has played things like the Yone and the Victor. If this Azir consistently becomes a priority pick for TSM B1, then either I would say either you got to ban it or you if you are a blue side for
Just get rid of it.
University,
Get rid of the drop the ego. Drop the ego.
Ban it or take it for yourself. And I don't know if we've really seen Doxa play Azir before, but I could be wrong here.
Yes, he's got a huge pool. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure he plays Azir. Abby, pretty much every millionaire is able to play Azir now. The
Yeah.
question is, if you can't handle the Azir or you don't have the picks into it, I mean, Azir is a really common first pick right now in pro play, so it's not even shocking to ban it. I think if you don't want to answer it, it's completely fine, especially if TSM's drafting the way they are, first picking jungle. Like, in that situation, unless you want to 1-2 Azir, then they're going to take Azir. And unless you want to pick LeBlanc again, you should just honestly just ban it. It's not worth dealing. And we've seen what happens when Doxa gets a pick that actually can punish, right? He played Zoe and Syndra, looked really, really good. Plays something else that can punish. Just don't give him Azir. Azir is just too safe. You can... Yeah, Azir is... I mean, there's a reason why Azir is the most picked mid laner on this patch and the previous patch. It's just because he's so safe. And there's nothing that can really match that right now from a mage perspective.
Right. Something that we didn't get a chance to mention as well was when we were looking at the draft and the Renekton was picked, right? But it was paired with a Hecarim from Babip. And a lot of us kind of mentioned, hey, this 2v2 from for Renekton and Hecarim doesn't really do anything. So if Hybrids, who has been known for pulling out Gnar in their game wins, could have easily picked it there, but they went with the Shen instead, more supportive role. And even though he didn't lose to Haunter in lane, it didn't feel like Hybrids was able to have the same impact in this game as he did on that Gnar, right? And
did we watch the same laning phase? I just want to know because we saw him. I mean, Babip was, or it's not Babip, but Haunter was getting huge CS leads in the lane. I mean, they don't play around their top laners very much for either of these teams. It's an isolated lane. We saw that Shen was having a pretty hard time. I don't know. Maybe this is, you got mind controlled into thinking like, oh yes, Renekton did not win. But
okay, all right, but what I'm trying to say is that like we didn't see like I don't know. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a huge like impact from Hybrids in that game. Whereas if he had picked something like the Gnar, you know that Babip is not playing towards top side. Haunter's not getting investments or resources. You can play more aggressively in that lane, but they went with Shen because they wanted to play more for the cross map.
Protect my Saskio. Yeah.
Well, that Jinx definitely needed a lot more protecting in those fights. Cody-san definitely stepped his game up on this Kai'Sa as well. Obviously being enabled by his team's composition, but as we were getting ready for this game 3, I just want to get one last quick thought from you, X Special, about TSM Academy's chances of having one more clean draft and executing on their win cons versus Winthrop's ability to come back.
I just want to say, when they played that Shen, it was actually really good because Haunter, sure, he got a small lead. That's not enough in that matchup. You want to get a much bigger lead because Shen's going to have a global. So I think Shen pick was really smart. It's really good into Renekton. The problem is the rest of the comp. You have a LeBlanc, you have Olaf, and they weren't able to get leads. So your Shen, even though he has a global pressure, isn't able to do much. Had they converted on that, then that Shen would have been a really good pick. I think against a better team that can actually play around the top side, you just dive the Shen. The Shen was actually very low at certain points, and it was open up for a dive. But with Hecarim, it was actually pretty hard at the Shen, so it just didn't work out too well. But I mean, this next game is gonna be different. Let's see how it goes. I'm really curious to see what adaptations they're gonna make, because that Azir pick was super annoying, and unless Winthrop wants to pick it early, they're not gonna get it.
Well, game 3 is ready and available, folks. Kangas and Coco will take you through on that ride. Take it away, gentlemen.
All right, everybody, we're here for the final game of the evening. Winthrop University versus TSM Academy, going all the way to 3 games. Coco, TSM Academy brought it back in that game number 2, but it was still looking shaky, and Winthrop University have been looking strong throughout the night. So what do we want to see going into game number 3? Let's start with both, or take it for both sides, but starting with Winthrop University.
Yeah, so for Winthrop, honestly, at this point, what I came into this series looking for has been accomplished. It's something where entering today, they're at a fork in the road where they're saying, you know what, we are going to either full commit to Steelo based off of our performance today, or we're going to be going down the path of PGC, heavily investing in this circuit for not just the players, but for the organization, for the ecosystem of Winthrop University. With that being said, them grabbing a win and really bringing TSM Academy to this 3rd game, that's all accomplished. They know where they're going to be heading, and they know the strengths of not just their player, but of their players, but of their support staff, of their coaching system, so on and so forth. So for them, go out with in a blaze of glory if you can, or give it your best possible to really prove that statement and stamp it home with a nice little letter, where for me, it's something that for TSM Academy, it's everything to lose if you do go into this series.
Yeah, Winthrop University, again, just as a reminder for everyone why we were favoring TSM, saying that they were favorites in the series coming up. Winthrop University got 7th in Risen, 5th, 8th in Big, 9th in Cup. Those are not the best endings positions in other Tier 2 tournaments. Not the Tier 1, the Tier 2. These did not have Academy teams in them. So the fact that they're showing up, they've definitely learned. They got a good understanding of the meta. I'm loving this Jinx pick, and I'm excited to see that going forward. But now, you already kind of hinted at it for TSM Academy, that pressure's on for them a little more so than Winthrop University right now. So what are you expecting from them going into this Game 3, as we're already hopping into pick and ban?
Yeah, just for a quick little summary and expanding on the point that everything is on the line for them and they have everything to lose, is because their veterans of Hanser and Cody's son need to show that they have that actual experience and the real endurance and tenacity into these best of 3 series to prove for their LCS potential careers, and the amateurs as well to stay in those academy seats. So with all of that on the line and heading into this 3rd game, it's very much up for TSM Academy to make another great draft where they can take out those win conditions of Winthrop. And for Winthrop, they might just be able to play the same exact game, but just keep it a little bit more refined and more focused and just 110% on their conditions.
Well, so far we're seeing TSM Academy for the 3rd time now on the blue side. They banned away the Zoe yet again, and the Lily is coming in to fall here. But Winthrop still saying, yep, they're like, we're not going to change anything up. We're happy with how the pick ban phase has gone so far, and I've actually been pretty impressed with their pick ban, especially in that game number 2. But we'll see what the priorities are right now. Okay. This is 3 games, 3 different junglers for Babip. First opted for the Olaf, then opted for the Hecarim, now opting for the Nidalee.
All right, so a little bit more early game focused, has that diverse path, but people have been picking up the Night Harvester Nidalee as of late just because of how volatile it can be going into those mid-game stages, and is a little bit more tower dive focused. The other thing that I would be looking for here is the infamous Renekton synergy that it has. So Hanser can still pick that up in the next rotation if Winthrop does not grab it here now. So it forces that hand of saying, Winthrop, you either give us that Renekton Nidalee combo and we really bully and abuse your top side of the map, or you take it away from us and you force a blind pick. So with all of that, Winthrop says, you know what, you can go ahead and take that top side powerhouse. We'll stick with our Jinx powerhouse in that bottom lane, and we'll pick a Jarvan as well to make sure that every single one of you is condensed in that Cataclysm for Jinx to just go absolutely bonkers with those rockets.
Yeah, I like the Jarvan with the Jinx a little more than the Olaf with the Jinx that we saw last time around. I feel like the Olaf was just answered into the Hecarim as like, oh, yep, this is just like a good pick for the Olaf. But here's the rest of the first round of picks for TSM Academy. They do go with that Renekton. You already talked about the synergy with the Nidalee, but also the Alistar, taking one away, one of those engaged supports for Jinx.
The other thing, too, is you mentioned it actually in the last game, where there was no real true tank capability of these supports, where Alistar has that raw damage reduction in that Unbreakable. So that is another thing that can be played into effect when you get that bottom lane to level 6, where you have that turret diving capability with Alistar as well, and has that good engagement to not only start fights, but also to help backstep and help peel for those additional carries where whatever Cody's son decides to choose. But with that Renekton being locked in B2, it's a quick Shen reply, another sweet run back. I'm not too worried about it. It's just it needs to be a little bit cleaner coming in from Hybrid to really give that strong argument going into the mid game.
The big difference is that it's no longer the Hecarim jungle that can also jump onto the Jinx fairly easily. Also, Alistar's engage range is a little shorter than the Rakan's engage range. So it's looking like a potential, I mean, like Nidalee tries to poke people out. Maybe they go for a more front-to-back kind of team fight, but I think that this plays more into Winthrop's strengths if they're going for this Jinx-style composition where it's just let her get to those 3 items, scale, fight front-to-back. But now they have to lock in something else right now. Either pick their support, pick a mid laner. Rom, I like that.
I was going to say Brom's pretty
go.
good. It's that forced disengagement. That was the one struggle that Winthrop had, is that once all of their engagement went in, all the tools were exhausted. There was very few options for them to effectively backstep back onto Saskio. Brom's going to be that not only hard engagement, but also that follow-up as well to help keep on to Saskio and keep that stick on. The other option would have been that Orianna as well, but that was banned out. So for them, that is the only real viable option that Winthrop could have gone for in R4. So with this mid pick, getting that final counter pick once again in this third game, we're going to have to see what they grab out, because LeBlanc is still available, but I do not like that argument that Winthrop is looking at, where TSM blind picking the mid lane Azir, totally fine. And a Vayne, something that we also saw earlier today, that also had its own bit of success.
Again, a lot of teams are opting for the Vayne counterpick into junglers in particular. We see a lot into things like the Udyr, things like the Skarner, but also the J4. If he cataclysms you, you can dem him into his own wall. Pretty good interaction for you right there. But here we go. The mid laner locked in. We got an Echo, Coco. That's pretty exciting.
So something that is fairly unpopular at the current moment of the meta is that Echo mid lane, because it doesn't have that great of a early laning performance. It struggles a little bit, especially against range bullies like Azir in that example. And though he can farm effectively, it is very taxing on his mana cost and sort of gives a lot of that mid prio over to the opposing side. But the late game investment for Echo is really strong because of how well he can hard push out those side waves, get those strong flanks, and also of how well he can sort of temper fights with his zone control. So from here, it's very much going to be onto Frostforest and Doxa to find those good picks onto this very short-ranged composition that TSM Academy has cooked up, though it's going to be very difficult for them in the early stages. So they're looking for a slow, steady game, something they can play patient around, but TSM Academy needs to blow this game out of the water early so they can literally just run over and pile dog onto the carries of Winthrop and give us a very, how would I say it, formidable or a very fortified statement of saying, we're TSM Academy, we are the next level of competition. Do not disrespect us coming into the first tier 1 tournament and going in throughout the rest of the week.
Expectations is the big word I keep going back to for TSM Academy. Not only are they an academy team, they're an academy team with players like Haunter and Cody Sun. These guys have been to Worlds. These guys have been to MSI. These guys have played against the top international competition. And they're getting a game 3 against Winthrop University, who have been playing immaculately. So for all the Winthrop fans in the Twitch chat right now, be proud. They're pushing them to the edge. And honestly, I like this draft even more than their last one. Just makes a lot more sense to me. You have Frostforest to now be the engage, and Sir Kenji can be the peel for Jinx. Doxa follows up on this jungler's engage a little bit better than I liked the LeBlanc and the Olaf when you're just looking at these 5v5s, because you want everyone grouped up for Saskio rocket damage. So this does that, like the Wombo combo, Jarvan locks him in, Echo locks him down. And also hybrids, again, to keep Saskio safer. And also, there's less dive coming in from TSM Academy. This is not the Kaisa who's going to jump onto Saskio to follow up on these long-range engages, so they're going to have to play a little more front to back, and Vayne is very short-range. So I think that this is a good draft for Winthrop. I think TSM Academy, they're going to need to be a little creative with how they play their specific composition out.
Yeah, it's very much going to be down onto those LCS veterans, like you mentioned, and it's something that fans and regular viewers of the amateur scene have sort of heard the song on repeat, because we have Solafide in this bracket as well, and they're a roster of just the same style of a lot of LCS veterans and experience and world renown being in this amateur circuit where some would argue they do not deserve to be. but they are going blow for blow with amateur talent like Saskio, like Serkenji, like Frost Forest, and they are struggling, but they are also developing and relearning the game themselves. So this is something where for Winthrop, for these fans, you are already proud of what you have been able to accomplish and where you have gotten TSM Academy to have to fight you for. Where TSM Academy, you've got everything on the line, but you've got so much experience and reputation as well that even if you do take a loss here, you still have that drive to really push the individual players to understand their role and their sort of stories going into the second half of the season.
Again, a wake-up call for Academy. CLG Academy lost, TSM Academy getting pushed to the edge here. I think this is showing that we cannot assume that just because a player has the big org staff, just because they have an Academy coach and play in the Academy League, that they are going to naturally be better than these other amateur and collegiate teams. So we're into the early stages of this game, Coco. Again, same thing as before. Let's break down where we expect to see action happening early on, because if we paint the picture right now, TSM have a same matchup topside, but a very different matchup bot. So how is that going to affect the overall flow of things?
Well, it's not even just the different matchups in these two lanes of top and bot, but also the matchup in the jungle. That is the more key point, because we talked about in the draft, Renekton in Italy, very volatile, very dive heavy, and can really oppress the top side of the map and get into those quadrants very quick, very easily. And not only oppress the top laner, but the jungler as well. So we're going to have to keep an eye on how Babib and Hanser sort of work together in synchronicity, where on that other side, it's Frost Forest having to, again, continue to play into Saskio and Serkenji, who have been very strong voices in the early game, have understood their different conditions and also their limits that they can play around when we get into the point where Dragon starts to spawn, Herald starts to spawn. And throughout the series, Sword getting a little bit of trouble here, having to flash. That's going to be a key point. But throughout the series, both of these teams have been very quick on the draw when these timers come up. We've had the Dragon spawn at 6 minutes. Immediately, teams are on top of it. Herald spawns at 8. People are immediately on top of it. And that's where these two teams are going to clash very quickly. And it's up to TSM Academy, like you mentioned, to really put the pedal to the metal and force Winthrop away from these early conditions.
But early on in this laning phase, things are not looking great for Cody's son. The Vayne range compared to the Jinx new rocket range just buffed. Not even close right now. Saskio has just been poking out Cody's son. He's still doing a decent job farming, but we have the same play as last game. Saskio goes for an early back, cheat recall, shove the wave, get that coal. You want to scale, you want as much gold efficiency as possible, and this is one of the best ways to ensure that, especially when you have this free of a laning phase. So this means that we could look to topside here, as Hanser and Babip are both on the same side of the map. Babip might look for something as Train on the mid lane as well. Now look at topside. Hybrids struggling for the wave. Are they going for a dive up here?
It'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
Like, it's what that duo is built to do, but the other thing that I was a little worried about is Serkenji hit for that reset, but he went to start to hover in mid lane, where if they got hints of where Babip was going to be, you'd have this random Braum pop up out of the bushes and help with that disengagement if the dive did come into fruition. But because that didn't happen, he can go ahead and meander his way back into the bot lane, play that defensive style that helps Saskio continue to power farm. But again, just because you were able to thwart away one piece or 1 point in time doesn't mean you're not going to be able to thwart the second. And Babip is constantly oppressing this top 2 quadrants of the map.
Yeah, really wants to control up here, because even if you don't get the gank off, you're just backing up Hanser, so he can keep shoving in, and is having a much better laning phase against the Shen than last time around. A full 2 waves up over Shen, and that wave is actually going to bounce back towards him. This is a fantastic lane state for Hanser right now.
Well, and it also gives breathing space for Babip to go to this bottom side to make sure Frost Forest isn't doing anything cheeky and getting some early Dragon priority. So
top Frost Forest is looking for the gank, has the flag and drag, but doesn't go for the flash. I thought he might actually commit for that, but not meant to be.
Flash for flash would have been pretty well done for Winthrop, because then it helps make sure that Hybrids has a little bit of maneuverability if there's another attempt on his life in the next few moments. But he's actually, Frost Force is still sticking around at this top end. They're trying to play TSM's game.
Yeah, just forcing Hanser back, saying, no, you're not going to catch this wave. We will successfully crash this, bounce it back, because otherwise Hybrids is just in such a bad lane position. Like, Frost Force kind of has to do this, right?
Yeah, he has to. Like, it's something where you're spending so much time in this top side of the map that you know what Babip's going to be doing. Any jungler at this point in time sees the enemy jungler on the top side of the map. It's like, okay, I'll just take I'll take your jungle and I'll take Dragon to boot. So you have to find some sense of repercussion and a consequence for Babip to have to deal with and sort of bite his tongue on. But speaking of biting
okay.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, he had smite. He really wasn't in that much danger, but
yeah, but you never know.
If it was, guess.
Yeah, it would have been a little tough if you just had Saskio peek in with a zap and possibly get a steal away, but
right.
Like you said, a smite was available for him, but with this rotation, Babip can then again reinvest on that top side of the map, and Frost Forest is going to have to do a little bit of catch-up in his own jungle, though not much of it is really going to affect the next few moments. But remember about how these two teams are extremely quick on the draw. We had that immediate 6-minute dragon being taken away. We're going to be looking at Herald in the next 90 seconds to see if these teams are going to be making those motions towards that top half.
Doesn't look like TSM Academy is in the position to do so at this late point of the game, which is very opposite of what we saw in games 1 and 2. Winthrop with early dragon controls, TSM with the rotations, going for those Rift Heralds. We might see the opposite this time around here, Coco, as Winthrop, because of that play topside, because of Frost Forest trying to help out Hybrids crash that wave. That early dragon goes to TSM Academy, but the problem with that play is that it's still just a Shen. I mean, he can kind of freeze his wave in front of his own turret. Yes, he's in a better lane state right now, but it's not like he caught up in farm. He's still down 20 CS.
Yeah.
And Hanser is still laning immaculately right now.
Well, let's look at the opposite side of the map, too, in bottom lane, where Frost Forest is hovering around. If you get to that point where, there you go, level 6, I was just going to say, once Frost Forest is level 6,
you might just go
for
it.
You can look for this.
Okay. Did not realize Sir Kenji was chasing between turrets right there as we were watching Frost Forest take that red buff. But yeah, they get flash out of Alistair, so Summoner Spell down.
Yeah, so this is where it was, again, like, you get Frost Force to level 6, you have that turret diving capability threat on the side of Winthrop University to look for that bottom side. TSM Academy were thankfully, well, for them, they were thankfully able to disengage and reset. But if they stayed around for a little too long, Winthrop would have gotten the perfect reward for themselves, gotten a dive, would have gotten the Stained United coming in from Hybrids to get that shutdown and really get the ball rolling in their side of the court. But for now, it's just both of these two attempts on the lives of both Hybrids and on Takoti-san have been thwarted. The Herald is now available. All of the members of TSM and Winthrop are starting to migrate to this part of the map, but I'm giving the favor over to Winthrop here just because of how Sir Kenji has positioned himself. Frost Forest has some extra priority as well, but they may not be able to get the Herald, but they'll be able to win some river control and possibly some jungle vision as well.
Problem being, though, Koji-san pushes in bot side, Sasuke is catching that, so I think that the Vayne will actually be able to join here. Yeah, Sasuke is walking in now, level 6, so has the Mega Death Rocket, but teleports in. It's going to be a full 5v5 right now as the 80 carries are starting to join. That did a lot of damage right there. Hanser, though, doing a lot onto Doxa, onto Sir Kenji. He ults back in. Sword missing. First blood goes through for Winthrop on the top half of that map as Alistair was fighting a 1v2 that entire time, but Hanser flashes forward, gets a lot of damage. And now Frost Forest on full retreat right now. Babip lands the spear. Slow from Doxa. Can he get the stun? Ooh, double kill to Babip. And TSM find themselves with a kill lead.
I thought Babip was going to get extra greedy there and try and look for that extra spear that he landed onto Doxa. But this is where Winthrop, they had some priority because they were able to separate Fizzy away from the rest of the team, and Doxa was able to waste time for the rest of Winthrop to get that first blood.
You don't do this, Sasuke. Sword's there.
He doesn't have smite, but he's got
Alistair's there. Yeah, okay. Whew. It's like, do not do this again, please. Last time, at least everybody had ultimates. This time around, it would still be the same, though. All you got is a Braum with you, so they back off. That is now not only the Dragon, but also the Rift Herald picked up by TSM Academy. Very clean early game being played out by them.
Yeah, so Winthrop had that advantage going into the Herald because they had the great flank to sort of drive a wedge between Fizzy and the rest of his team. They were able to get the shutdown onto him, but because of the capability to just stick to targets from both Babip and Hanser, they were able to find a couple of those kills and really get the ball rolling for Babip on this Nidalee. You can already see fairly close, maybe 1,000 gold away from getting that Night Harvester. And from there, we'll have to see how he transitions to this dragon, seeing if he can get this Ocean Drake, determine what soul the map is going to be played out on. Because at that point, it can really determine how the late game will go. And already with that cash in from Babip, he's 1,000 gold off for his next massive power spike.
Still, getting that double kill really helps out the Nidalee get that much further ahead of the J4 right now, and also just up and clear in general. Babip having an incredible job on this Nidalee, making some sense why they locked it in first. This is the third jungler in third games when all the other previous junglers were up, and also he's power clearing Krugs. I don't think Frost Force has gotten a Krug camp since his first one.
I don't think so
He's trying to
either.
go bot side instead. I don't know if you can really dive Cody Son of Fizzy, yeah. So just priority around Dragon.
I think you'd need Stand United if you were looking for that dive, and that is not up for the next minute, so they'll have to call that one off. But this will be a first turret going over in trade of a dragon. I'd call TSM Academy gets the win on that because of who the gold is going to. It's going to Hanser, it's going to Babip. The power duo that needs to be very much ahead when they get into this mid-game stage. Once it hits 15 minutes, once those mythic items start to come into fruition, and Frost Forest, they're trying to see if they can get another win on their own side.
Yeah, Fizzy goes down. Well played, but still losing a lot of pressure top half. Hybrid's like, all right, team, can you make something more happen? Maybe get a little more out of that, because I'm struggling up here. It's just going to be a few more plates over to Saskio and company, but that's 2 turrets picked up by TSM Academy.
It's a little bit unfortunate for Hybrids. He's struggling up on this top side, but that's what happens when you give him a Renekton Nidalee. And this is just that wonderful chase, the sticking capability that Abram applies to whoever he decides to hit with those concussive blows. Unfortunate that Doxer wasn't able to participate in that. That would have been some extra gold going over to Echo. Though, at this stage, not too much to complain about. Just need to help swing back some extra control in these side lanes to sort of make up for all that was lost on the top end that TSM Academy was able to get.
Hanser and Babip are insanely strong right now. They both have their mythic items completed. I guess Gale Force is there on Frost Force as well, as he's been the recipient of a couple kills here, but Hanser's just miles ahead of Hybrids currently. This is what I was saying in last game he needed to do in order to really be that difference maker. And yeah, he had a good later stage of the game as well, find some clutch flash stuns, staying alive throughout all those fights, being a front line where they really didn't have much, but this time around he's even more terrifying. Already Gore Drinker completed, can just be a menace, and TSM Academy might just go for a dive bot side.
This would be ambitious to say the least because of how many tools are available for Winthrop to answer in kind with. Stand United is available, and Doxa is smelling blood in the water, so he's been hovering around on that bottom end for a little bit. Though with that recall coming in, Hanser did push him out of the mid lane, so some plates are going to be going over to both Sword and Hanser on that side of the map, and there's nothing that Winthrop is able to sort of win back, and all of this time, all of this pressure has just been granted over to TSM just because of the play that Hanser, as you mentioned, has been able to acquire, and also what Babip was able to scramble and sort of scavenge from with that Herald play earlier on, where he was able to get that double kill, get some gold into his pockets, to where Frost Forest never has the confidence to try and challenge him one-on-one on objectives.
Frost Forest has been playing around the bot side heavily over the last couple minutes here, trying to get Saskio safe. It feels like that's what Winthrop's new strategy is. They're like, okay, so top lane is doomed, right? Like, there's no second guessing that right now. But maybe we can still win through this Jinx win condition, getting Saskio fed. There's no longer this crazy dive composition coming in from TSM Academy that can ruin Saskio's day. So he's going to have a slightly easier time of navigating these fights. And they do get a turret bot side. So well done by Winthrop, bringing the game back a little bit.
Well, and it's also all 5 plates as well, going over to Saskio and Sturkenji as well. So right before those turret plates fell, they were able to get that extra cash in. We'll have to see if that gets them the mythic item, as we are resetting right now.
This is 3 Krugs in a row, by the way.
Darn. Yeah, this is 3 Krugs. I'm more worried about when Saskio gets that mythic item, because that's where that little big red flag, red flag, I guess. There you go. Yeah, that red flag is now up there for TSM Academy, saying, hey, we have a carry threat coming online for Winthrop, and we do not want that to get any much bigger. Sponsor.
Could be in some trouble. Ooh, but a good damage response by Sword. Oh, nice. The disengage goes through. He's got damage over the wall. Frost Forest has to respect it. And TSM successfully disengaged there. Looked a little dicey.
It was looking dicey for a moment because the side of Sturkenji and Frost Force were trying to time both the ultimate and the flash coming in from both of them respectively to get over the Azir wall, but Sword playing a great ultimate, being able to shove them all back and disengage for the rest of the team properly. And now hitting this mid-game stage, this is where the map starts to open up a little bit more. Saskio is going to be sitting in this mid lane, really pitching up his tent, while Hybrids will be sitting in that safe lane in the bottom side of the map. And with the dragon spawning in 45 seconds, it's up to Winthrop to try and get some extra vision control and try and find some pocket wards for the flanks that Haunter and Babip are going to be hunting for, to find those cracks in the defenses of Winthrop. And if they're able to, it's going to be an easy pickup for them going into both the Herald and the Dragon. But with how these teams are positioning, it looks like TSM is totally fine with taking this Herald and potentially just sprinting it down to the bottom side of the map and giving Winthrop the time to set up the vision control for them into that next objective contest.
Yeah, TSM Academy has time for this. They take this Herald very quickly. They can still rotate, and yeah, they trust that Winthrop University are not just going to burst down that Dragon immediately off spawn. Catch mid-wave, clean rotations here from TSM Academy, making sure that they're getting every objective they can. Now Winthrop University are on it, but there's a control ward right there. They actually didn't spot it out. I don't know if TSM Academy actually contests this. That's kind of surprising. They had TPs. They had people that could rotate. Instead, they dropped the Rift Herald mid. They're trading a turret for it as Doxa can't find the engage, and turret will not even fall.
Well, I think Winthrop got the better of that. They were a little bit slow on setting up their vision and defenses, but because all of their team was already down in that side of the map, that TSM Academy got little unconfident with trying to challenge that Dragon, but nonetheless, it's no harm, no foul for them. But Winthrop getting a nice alleviation, saying, all right, great, now we've got an Infernal Soul or Infernal Dragon in our pocket. It is going to be that, it was the Infernal map, so if they're able to triple stack this Infernal, it's going to be absolutely insane coming in from not just Saskio, but also Doxa as well, who is a bit of an upgrade with the Echo going into this mid-late game stage. He just needs to get to his mythic item, who he's also been very slow on the draw for.
Turret finally falls mid-side here. TSM Academy picking that up. So 3 turrets to their name, only 1 to Winthrop. It's just that last outer turret on the bot side holding on here for them to play around, which thankfully is still the Dragon side of the lane, so they can feel pretty good about that one. But man, this is a game 3 if ever I've seen one. It's slowed down very much, and neither team looking for these crazy engages. We saw last game, Sir Kenji going for these nutty Leona engages at like 12 minutes in, them fighting over Rift Herald at 8 minutes in, but this time around they're saying no, there's too much on the line right now, and honestly both teams can feel pretty comfortable with their scaling options. Sword and Cody-san scale very well too, so we keep talking about Saskio, Jinx. It goes both ways, everybody. So next objectives coming up here is still going to be a little while, so there's really not a big reason for either team to fight.
Yeah.
And I think that we can just take this time to maybe zoom out a little bit, rather than hyper-focusing on the game itself, as we've kind of set the stage well enough right now. Just, again, bringing us out to the position we find ourselves in right now is TSM Academy. Okay, never mind. Right as I start doing that, Cody-san just gets caught out of position here. Does get stunned up. Leash Pusher comes in, and the Cataclysm. Can they get Cody-san? They don't actually take him down. He's still alive! TSM Academy kept him alive for so long! Hybrids gets baited in, too, with the Sandy United. A double kill over to Han. So TSM Academy say, screw your point, Kangas. We're going to take a fight.
And with that, Sir Kenji jumping in on to Cody-san, but it takes so many resources for them to lock down that vein. And because of the time that was wasted, Haunter and Babip are able to get onto the back line, take out Saskio, take out Frost Forest, and there's not enough tankiness just yet because of how oppressed hybrids in Frost Forest have been from Babip and Haunter. And with that, they're able to really start to break open this map a little bit more. And it was all off of the engagement from Winthrop University. And it was something that you were just talking about, where you wanted to expand the picture a little bit more, where you wanted Winthrop to play it slow, play it safe, play for this hyper carry Jinx. And they start to try and be a little bit proactive, and they get caught in a bear trap where Fizzy finds that wonderful engagement and finds that flank and allows the rest of TSM to wrap around the defenses of Winthrop and get onto those carries when they do so need it. With this, it's just unfortunate. It was an unfortunate engagement because they didn't have the vision set up, and because of the passivity that they had and that they've been playing with, TSM Academy had all the tools in their back pockets and in the back bush, to be honest, to take that win for themselves.
When J4 goes for Cataclysm, you just press condemn on him and burst him down, and Cody-san just pressed his buttons the way that you're supposed to press your buttons in that instance.
Well, Fizzy found the flank too, so it's like Fizzy finding the flank makes sure Saskio doesn't get as much damage onto Cody-san, so that helps expand the fight a little bit more. And as much as you liked Winthrop stalling the game out and playing safe, once they got immediately aggressive, TSM Academy knew they had the upper hand, and they were able to expand this 2K gold difference to a 4K, doubling their profits and getting a lot of pressure around this Baron pit, where they again have the capability in their team composition to just shred it apart.
So often in this whole series, it just feels like Winthrop University engaging fight after fight after fight, and very rarely do we see TSM actually be the ones starting these fights, starting the engages. Oftentimes they're just saying, okay, we'll just let Winthrop run at us and then outplay them once the fight has started, once their cooldowns are used and they no longer have their lockdown potential. And I think Winthrop University need to learn from that. We need to realize, look, we don't have to force things to happen. We still can play it slow. We can just group for these objectives and try and take these fights. Then Jinx does have 2 items now, so that Runaan's Hurricane will help out in the damage department, but still not quite at that 3-item power spike that she really starts to output that damage.
Dragon up in 10 seconds. The Winthrop, this is not their objective to try and challenge, so they'll be forfeiting it over to TSM Academy. And with this luxury for us now, we can start to expand the picture, Kangas, where we can start talking about the consequences of both TSM and Winthrop in this 3rd game of the series. And with how that last situation went, and with how game 2 went too, where Winthrop is the one that's being proactive, trying to find these engagements, trying to make these proactive plays around these objective timers, and TSM Academy is the one that is playing a little bit more cards close to the chest and being reactive to these plays. It gives these different signals of saying Winthrop is extremely confident in their skills and they're just overestimating themselves because TSM Academy is finding these cracks in their armor. Where on the other side, I'm looking at TSM and I'm like, man, the fact that you guys aren't being proactive trying to find these picks and trying to shut down Saskio and Doxa as much as possible, I'm worried, because once you get into the later stages of the Grand Prix, you're going to be running into teams like Noorg and Solifide that will be punishing you and being proactive and shutting you down left and right. So you've got some homework to do for TSM Academy throughout the rest of this game and into tomorrow, where Winthrop, they're going out with that Rebel Yell and just really going 110%.
And if TSM Academy win this, or regardless of who wins this, they go against Solifide next. They will move against them in the semifinals of the winners bracket. The loser will go up against Cloud9 Amateur in the losers bracket. So I think that either way, I mean, the path is still open for either of these teams, no matter who wins here.
Oh, yeah.
The loser still has a chance to kind of move up through that losers bracket as well, but that winner is looking tough. Solifide have proven to be a very difficult team to beat here in the Tier 2, Tier 1 tournaments. So
yeah,
we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, I guess. But just giving context for the tournament as a whole. Again, a win here doesn't guarantee that you make it to the Proving Ground circuit. You need to win this match and then the next match against Solifide to get that top 4 and guarantee that spot, as well as some nice prize pool money, which I'm sure that these teams would feel great about, especially the collegiate amateur teams that would appreciate that nice little money in the pocket. But
helps pay for
again,
their
that's
tuition.
getting well ahead of ourselves now. Fizzy finally goes for the engage for TSM Academy, but it's not quite the engage they wanted. There is Braum there to disengage, also a J4, so they didn't find Saskio. They do not pull the trigger fully, but they are doing the Baron dance, getting this vision control down, trying to make sure that they have the inside track.
That's the proactivity I want. I want them to try and fight for this vision, but they're running into a weird choke point.
For it? They jump in onto Hanser. He's a very fed Renekton, and Jinx now trying to get that damage in. Look at the top side. Babbitt, can't jump in. They got to watch out Jinx. It's all about Saskio. It's all about keeping this Jinx alive, throwing out those rockets. Flash forward by Hanser. He's healed up so much damage. They can't quite get Hybrids, who's still barely alive. Doxa, there's no way you go for that, right? Yeah, that's way too aggressive. Just trying to make TSM Academy sweat a little bit right there. Just like I'm sweating during these team fights, Coco. This could go either way.
Man, if he had an ulti, I would have totally gone for it. Just full sent it, see if you could get a quick burst, and then ult right on back. But then again, you have to deal with a quick Hanser stun, or a quick shove, or a catch up for a condemn. And speaking of getting caught...
Yep, still didn't have ult right there. Sword says, okay, I'll just easy shuffle you back to my team. And Doxa goes down. That might mean Baron for TSM Academy.
Yeah, let me reiterate, Kangas. I would go for those plays if I had ultimate as Doxa. So
wait, what did you say? One more time? I didn't quite catch that, Coco. I don't know. Oh, don't get Serkanji. No! You can't run away from a Vayne, unfortunately. Oh, no. Now Frostforce. Oh, Coco. Play the circus music. Everybody from Winthrop are just getting corralled around the map right now. Oh, he tries to use Cataclysm to get away from Fizzy. Lycan drags away. They're still stuck in the Cataclysm. Babbitt trying to chase him down, but the rest of the members of TSM are just comfortably on that Baron right now, saying we don't need to chase down the enemy jungler, just keep him away, and we can take this objective. Wait, the Mega no way.
Okay.
Yep, okay. Sword's like, not again. Not thrice.
Sword going to be renaming to Shield after this game, man. He's just been such a defensive player, and he's been able to punish so hard. He's not been aggressive like Sword would say, but he's been very much the parrying dagger that has been punishing Winthrop whenever they try and look for anything that is overextensive or trying to punish more than they're really allowed to, or bite off more than they can chew in another term of words. Monster with that TP is just to force away the members of Winthrop from this dragon, and it's a good call on that, but just hopefully you don't get caught out on that side. Where Winthrop is now at this point where they have to grasp for straws. They need to play to utmost perfection, and any slip-up, any extension, any catch could spell disaster for them.
I saw Sir Kenji walking around that path. I was like, don't go for Hotzer. You're not going to kill him, and also there's a Vayne right there, but he backed away. He heard my call.
Thank goodness.
And takes a spear to the face for a lot of damage. TSM Academy have full control over this dragon side of the jungle. And this game 3 is playing out more similar to how I expected the whole series to look. This is TSM Academy playing clean, playing, just overall decent League of Legends. Yes, it's not perfect, but I mean, they're suffocating out vision control. They're rotating as teams. They're catching these waves. They're going for the objectives. They're capitalizing on overextended members. They're doing all of their homework, and they're making it look good.
Yeah, but it's very slow, and it took a couple of fights and a couple of wins for them to get to this point and get them the confidence that they needed. At the beginning of this game, they needed that Herald fight to go their way to really gain a lot of confidence going into the mid-game stage. Now that when they won that Herald fight, it gave the Bip and Haunter that confidence. Then they won that Baron scrap. That's where Sword and Cody-san are really starting to come into their own character and get into their own flow state, and this is the TSM Academy, like you said. This is the one that we needed to see, we expected out of them. It's just unfortunate it took them 3 games to get to this point.
They needed a couple warm-ups, Coco. They didn't get too many Academy games throughout the season.
It's like when we play Clash together.
Got plenty to play in Tier 2, so they're a little more fresh, right?
Yeah. We play Clash together sometimes, and so like we lose our first one, we're like, it's okay, it's a warm-up. It's all about getting the one win, and that's not the warm-up. So this is TSM Academy right now, but man, they are choking up
Academy.
resources.
They don't lose out on the rest of Clash by losing that first one. But here's the engage now onto Fizzy. It's the tanky Alice, remember, but they might still be able to take him down, and they do. One pick from Winthrop will help out, but they're still losing a lot for it.
Yeah, turret's gonna fall with the last shot. Oh no, it re-aggroes to Jinx. Oh no.
That's like gotta be single-digit health on that turret. There's no way.
Can we report that cannon minion for adjusting aggro? Because he could have gotten that turret, but okay, Doxa, he has ult this time.
Babbitt, Doxa, hybrids are all there. They're jumping onto Sword, but the Zir can't play very safe. Doxa still wants more. Ooh, Winter's Bite just barely not going to make it. Cody Sundo has rejoined in the fight. Oh no, the Unbreakable's the wrong way. Cody Sun now turns his attention back onto the Shen, says, okay, wait for the Spirit's Refuge to come down, and then go back in for it. Now Doxa finds himself yet again, the mid laner, perpetually alone, perpetually in the enemy jungle, and always chased down. TSM Academy find another kill for that one, and Winthrop get a little overeager.
Doesn't need a Renekton stun to land that Nidalee Spear, and with that, Babip can help rally around the rest of his team to parade down this mid lane. And from here on out, you got to respect Winthrop for going for that play. Like the 110% we've been talking about all game has come into fruition, but it's just that over expectation that has really bit them in the butt multiple times this game, and TSM has punished them every single step of the way and shown them that this is how you are supposed to be playing these counteractive games. And with the Renekton Nidalee comp that they were able to cook up, it's just been working wonders for them as well. So now at a 10k gold differential for TSM, you may lose a life here, but honestly,
they're
it's
going
just...
for Hail Mary. No inhibitors
dear,
left. They need this, but look at Saskio. Haunter just jumps right back on him. Fizzy as well. Saskio's still alive, still getting some auto attacks off, but not for long. Will fall down. Winthrop University gave it an honest try. They pushed TSM Academy to a game 3, but in that game, TSM Academy said enough. They said, we are going full pedal to the metal and shove through these waves. No inhibitors. Just 2 members left of Winthrop Academy, or Winthrop University rather, and I don't think that they have enough in the tank here. Yep, they do at least take down the Alistair, but TSM Academy will claim this victory. They will play against Solafide, in the semifinals of the winners bracket. Congratulations, TSM Academy.
Well, a moment of silence for Winthrop as we have just reawakened back to the real world, I guess. Augmented reality is now over Kangas. Though
I took
nonetheless,
the glasses off. I think that's why. You know, when I'm not wearing the glasses, we reverted back to normalcy.
that could have been it. But nonetheless, this is something that, going way back and rewinding to the beginning of the day, where we're thinking of TSM Academy against Winthrop being heavily favorited over to TSM. We were expecting gameplay out of them where they were going to oppress the top side of the map, neutralize the bottom lane, and then from there constantly punish any overextensions that Winthrop was looking for. If you were looking at Game 3 and saying, hey, that's how the rest of the series went, right? It's like, well, how did we get to Game 3 if that was how the rest of the series was then? So that's something where, for Winthrop, it's extremely prideful for them. Like, they can come out of this series still with their heads held high because of how much they forced TSM Academy to sort of realize and reconvene themselves upon, to just adjust to this series. And going into the rest of Proving Grounds and into CLOL, they have a lot of power in their side of the court now going into those different tournaments.
That game is what I expected, specifically with the Hanser diff. The game number 1, I think we can say, was kind of a weird strategy from TSM Academy where they just kept trading objectives, never really fighting in lane. But once they said, nope, we're just going to put Hanser on Renekton, and we're just going to let him lane. That's when TSM Academy actually started showing up and looking a lot better. But congratulations, TSM, for picking up that victory. Winthrop University, it is not over for you yet. You will be going up against Cloud9 Amateur in the losers bracket. So they still have some more games ahead of them here in the Unified Grand Prix. That's it for us for the casters tonight, though. We will be back tomorrow for more action, so make sure you stick around as well for the rest of the night, because we do have Analyst Desk coming up next with a player interview. So we're going to send it to a short break before that, and have a good rest of your night.
and gentlemen, we have Sword, the winning mid laner for our series tonight from TSM Academy here. First of all, congratulations,
cannot hear him.
Sword. This might be a little cheesy. I don't have a sword, but I have this keyblade.
I don't think
would like to
Rafa is
bestow
in
to you,
this
sir,
Discord call.
as a present here. So.
Okay, I hear it now.
You couldn't hear me at all? Oh man.
Yeah. It's okay.
All right. Oh man, I'm so embarrassed. All right, well, I was trying to say I don't have a sword, but I have this keyblade I would like to bestow to you as a congratulations for your win today. It's really cheesy. But it's from the heart, man.
Wow, I appreciate that. That looks pretty nice.
Thank you. First question I wanted to ask you: what was the prep like going into this Winthrop University matchup for you guys today?
The prep, we just do what we did, like just do the draft we did for what we were practicing scrim, and we just had to perform, and it should be pretty easy if we just pull off. Yeah.
So just basically playing the comfort picks that you guys have been practicing throughout the academy season, and just making sure that you guys execute upon it. Perfect.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
then, all right. When you went up against Doxa in this series, what were your impressions like before going against him, and then after the series ended?
Before this series, I always see him in solo queue. She's like an amateur mid laner, so you always see him in solo queuing. Like,
yeah,
because like pro player don't really play solo queue. But I see him always in like the top of the challenger, so I was pretty excited to finally first time facing him on stage.
Cool. And then I think, what's up?
Oh, after this series, my expression of him, like, just he did better than what I expected.
Yeah, I think he definitely surprised us all. The Zoe game 1 was not expected, but then you got your hands on his ear, and you had a very, very commanding presence in every single team fight throughout the series there. Honestly, it's just really well played from you on that pick, and I think people are going to have to really respect that coming out, as you guys will be playing against Solafide tomorrow, who just took down Cloud9 Amateur today. What are your thoughts about going into that team, and specifically Tuesday in the mid laner?
Oh, wait. So it's pronounced Solafide. Well, that team has like 2 ex-TSM Academy players, Dokla and Winston, so it'll be really, really nice to play against them, because they're my homies. Like when I went to Cali, I would just hang out with them.
Oh, cool. Well, that's sweet.
Playing against Tuesday, I'm pretty excited since he has been on like Academy for a few years, so he's pretty good. So I'll have to focus really hard and see what I can do.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good benchmark for you, as you are definitely one of the fresher faces in the Academy scene. I think before you were playing through the TSM junior roster that TSM had as a project a couple years ago, and now here on the TSM Academy. How have you enjoyed playing with this roster so far?
This roster is like pretty fresh, because I've never talked to the roster we have currently, and we're fitting pretty nice. They're all really nice, and they're all pretty good players, so I'm having a pretty good time here.
Oh, fantastic, man. Before I let you go, as it is getting pretty late, is there anything else that you would like to shout out, anyone in particular?
Well, my coach Peter was like, after game 1, he was like, don't stress it and don't let emotion get to you. So that really helped me calm me down. So that got me played pretty decently game 2 and 3. So shout out to my coach Peter.
Yeah, shout outs to Peter Zhang. We could definitely see the change as you were able to have a more commanding presence on the Azerian games 2 and 3. Again, Sword, congratulations.
And Joey too.
Oh, okay.
Joey also did that in game.
Sick. Shout outs to Joey as well. Well, again, thank you, Sword, so much for taking the time to do this interview. Congratulations again. We'll see you tomorrow. Best of luck.
Okay, thank you.
Next special. I don't know if you got a chance to hear what Sword had to say, but very very humble and very. I like the kid. He's got a lot. He's got a lot of spark, and I think he's something. He's someone that takes coaching feedback super critically. And like he said, after Peter Zhang was able to talk to him about after the game one and calm him down, they got him prepped for the Azir, and he had a better presence throughout those games and games 2 and 3 here at Special.
Yeah, I mean, these games, honestly, I expected the third game to kind of look like how the first two games should have gone. It should have been a quick 2-0. But I was just not impressed with Winthrop's draft. I mean, obviously they had a really solid idea of what they wanted with the Jinx, and then they wanted to counterpick the Azir, but I mean, obviously we saw what happens, but it's not fair to them to say, hey, like that draft is just bad. Obviously they practiced with it, they thought it was good,
Yeah.
but it's hard for me to be like, hey, that was a solid draft when my idea of it would have been very different.
It was, we had there was a lot of adaptation coming through to this series. I think that we kind of touched on it before, that there was some of the pieces from game 2 that we thought we wanted to see change, and it seemed that for the side of Winthrop, they just doubled down on it, right? They were like, this Jinx pairing, this Shen matchup, we are okay with it. We are willing to keep going into it and see what kind of comes out of it. And we saw yet again that you're just going to, TSM just basically dismantled them in this one.
Yeah, the biggest adaptation for TSM Academy was getting Babip this Nidalee. This was a jungler that he definitely looked more proactive on. He had more of a presence. In fact, we have a heat map that gets to show you how where he was for a majority of the game in case you missed it, because he pretty much set up a tent on the top side of the map there at
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I actually didn't like how well TSM played through the top side, because sure, they had Renekton in Italy. They never dove top once. They went their level 4, blew Shen's flash, went their level. They took their enemy red at level 7 when Frostforce took their red. So it was a trade, but they didn't dive him at that point. And then they tried to dive him around level 8 with the Herald, and then Shen just backed off. But like there wasn't a single time where Shen actually got dove, which should be happening if you're playing a Renekton into Nidalee into the Shen, and there's a point in the game when it's split map. And so to me, it really shows that TSM cannot play through topside. It's not just Babip, it's not just Haunter, it's the combined two aren't synergized enough to actually make plays happen. And this is a problem against good teams, because then they can pick Shen. Honestly, the Shen was down a bit of CS, sure, it's down 20 CS, but that's fine. I mean, if they had picked Gnar, I think would have been better. But I mean, both of these teams don't play around their top side well, and if you're picking Renekton Nidalee, you probably want to be ganking and diving that top side a little bit harder. So, I mean, we'll have to see, but I'm not really impressed with the Academy teams today. They really didn't do anything impressive. And obviously, COG lost, but TSM just they ran the same comps game 2 and 3, and Winthrop were just like, okay, let's do the exact same thing and just hope it changes something. And obviously, it didn't do anything. They should have just banned the Azir. Don't give that Azir away if you're not going to like actually counterpick it with something strong. And then Renekton, I mean, just pick Gnar into it. It's just it's a known soft counter, and then just stop picking Jinx, man. Honestly, that champion blows.
That champion is really suspect, man. It's crazy.
Don't get me wrong, Jinx can be strong, but like,
yes,
two picking every single game is just it's a little bit. It's one of those illegal draft picks, in my opinion.
There we go.
Well, unfortunately for Winthrop, they sometimes they believe in comfort than maybe adaptation, and so we can criticize all we can. I will say that when we go back to the beginning of the series, we predicted Winthrop to lose. Yes, there is definitely some disappointing plays from both teams, but I will say for Winthrop University's sake that the way that at least they were able to play around Doxa's lead in Game 1 was absolutely spectacular, and it can only raise concerns for TSM Academy as they go up against Solafide tomorrow, which, Winthrop is one of the amateur teams that made it into the tier 1, but they're not one of the top half seeded teams. They're on the bottom half, and if TSM Academy are struggling against them, then who knows what's going to happen once they go up against Solifide tomorrow, Al.
Yeah, especially for a team in Solifide that plays a little bit towards their top laner, right? Like Dokla is a strong side top laner. He's calling for as many resources as possible, and that was something that we were saying, that maybe Hanser is just not calling for these ganks. Maybe he's just not calling for BabBab to come ruin this enemy laner. We're playing Renekton, dive this guy right now. Dokla is 100% the guy to call that bluff and call my jungler to gank this guy. It is going to be very interesting, I think, to watch Solifide, because I think lane for lane, you would say that Solifide are going to win. They have just so much experience between the 5 of those guys. But Solifide themselves have had a lot of trouble with trying to get their jungler Winston on the same page with them. And I think if they're going to have troubles there, then we might see a much more even series than maybe a lot of people would expect for the Academy team.
Yeah, I actually don't expect the Solifide to be that much harder than than Winthrop. And the reason for that is because Hanser actually matches up pretty well against strong side top laners, because he's used to playing weak side. And he's such a good weak side player that it's hard to punish him. And I think today, I felt like he was trying to overplay. He really underestimated Winthrop's the ability to punish him. And his first game Gragas was not good. I don't think he's gonna play Gragas again. And he's just gonna play the Renekton, the GP, the Gnar, like something like that, where if you just farm it out, you're just gonna be useful in team fights. And I feel like that's more the style that TSM does well on. Yes. And Solifide, they're good, but at the same time, they're going to be playing for team fights. And when it comes down to team fights, it's just whoever's going to show up on a day. And I think, I really hope to not see Azir. I think Azir is going to be a defining champion in that series, because both Tuesday and Sword are going to play Azir, and whoever gets is probably going to have a really good time in that game.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our broadcast for tonight. I wanted to give a huge shout out to X Special for taking the time and joining us here on the analyst desk and offering his insight and wisdom here for me and Alk here. As sometimes we get the big brain predictions right, and sometimes we look stupid, but it's okay.
Sometimes we have that TSM Academy game 1. You know, things just happen. Yeah. The random stuff just happens, and there's suddenly Baron steals 2 games in a row. It happens.
Sometimes we disrespect Unsealed Spellbook Zoe. But again, on behalf of the Unified Grand Prix broadcast staff and crew, I want to thank you all for coming out to tonight's broadcast. Make sure you tune in again, same time tomorrow, 5:30 EST, as we will be having the matches for the Academy channel, TSM Academy versus Solifide, and No Org taking on Zeus Gaming. Have a good night.